It's a devilishly bad day in the world of Magic the Gathering. Commander Masters is crushing stores and players' hopes at the same time. It has done irreparable damage to the game. And on top of that, Wizards of the Coast has made a very bizarre banning announcement. And that's not even everything we're going to talk about today.
Magic. I am a wizard! History. I'm an old wizard! The magic historian. My bones hurt.
Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. My friends, I hope the day finds you well because we have gathered for a very special installment of Mega Magic News hosted by the Greed Demon. So, I have missed a whole bunch of news. We have a roundup. We're going to go over some of the lesser stuff. Then we'll talk about the Bannon. And then we'll talk about the crazy Commander Masters fallout. And as a note, sometimes I call Commander Double Masters because I get the Commander Masters and Double Master twisted up. I've done it in previous videos. If I do it again, just remember I'm talking about Commander Masters. Now, let's start out light. Let's talk about some fun promo action before we go into the mire of greed and despair. All right, so check out this Reliquary Tower. Actually looks pretty sweet. This is a Command Fest promo. I've always been a big fan of Reliquary Tower for a couple of reasons. I love unlimited hand sizes. I love endless resources. That part feels great. And then on top of that, this Reliquary Tower concept, the idea of this tower that's full of ancient relics and kind of is imbued with their power, even if you remove it from them, just kind of infinite storage of information, that is a fun flavor concept. And that's not actually all the funky promos we have going on here. There's some really cool Japanese Duel Master crossover promos that use artwork from Duel Masters but are actual Japanese Magic cards, right? So we got Earthquake, Sarah Angel, Pouncing Jaguar, and Nicol Bolas. Now for real, Nicol Bolas looks the best. And if you're wondering, since there's been a billion Nicol Bolases, this is actually the original Nicol Bolas, who's the 7/7 pay 3 during your upkeep. When he hits your opponent, they discard their entire hand. What an insane ability, right? It's kind of nutty that this, in a way, is like the weakest version of Nicol Bolas that we have on a Magic card. Maybe there's a weaker one, but I can't really think of one. The casting cost makes him really hard to play. He's great if you can cheat him out and go, bam, your whole hand's gone. Like, I've been hit by him before. Pitching your whole hand feels terrible, but I love the way that this promo looks, all right? Now, next thing I want to talk about is Wild of Eldraine's real quick, because Wizards of the Coast has made a good move here. When they said that they were dedicating themselves more to lore, they're actually backing it up. They've already released 3 installments of the Wild of Eldraine story, and yes, I will be covering those over on Fantasy Geographic. This mask actually kind of messes up my mouth and makes it harder to talk. So, over on Fantasy Geographic, I'll be covering that lore. I was obviously just off hanging out with Moxman. Actually, if you missed that, there's some live stream action over on Hatcher of me and Moxman hanging out together. And it's some epic streaming. But regardless, I'm catching up now. So, with the Wild of Eldraine story, specifically in regards to Wizards of the Coast, the good news is, on top of releasing the 3 story chunks, they're actually doing audiobook versions of them where they read the entire story. So, if you're somebody who doesn't want to read the article, but you just want to hear it read out, you can hear it read to you by somebody. Now, there is a little bit of tweaks they still need to work on because they haven't figured out exactly how to do the visuals, so the artwork doesn't always match what's going on, and they also have the additional problem that whoever's reading it doesn't know that you need to kind of pause for a moment between different sections, otherwise things start to sound like a run-on sentence and it makes it mildly confusing. But overall, this is a huge step forward because understand, this costs Wizards money and they absolutely don't want to spend money, but they're spending the time to have somebody actually go ahead and record the entire story. They're doing all the visuals along with it. So yes, while things are bad, there is some light down there. It's a tiny little pinpoint at the end of the tunnel. We might get there, but I figured I would bring that up because it is actually good news, right? Now, another thing that's going on, now this is going on Arena, so who knows if this is actually Wizards trying out something new or not, but it's possible that Wizards might be looking at tweaking the rules for when you start playing a game of Magic and might go, yo, the player who plays their first land, like whoever's going first, their first land comes into play tapped. Now, I don't know if they're actually going to go through with that because it really does feel like, it kind of does slow down the first player because Magic does have an inherent first player advantage. It doesn't matter. Sure, you don't get to draw a card at the beginning when you're going first, but the tempo boost you get from going first is huge. So at this point, it's just an arena event, but remember, they do just abruptly make changes to the game. Like, here you go, here's a different mulligan rule. Now we're going London, now we're going Paris. So ultimately, I don't really think there's much of a chance of it, but since there is theoretically a chance, and it is kind of interesting, I thought I would bring that up. Now that we've covered all of the more minor stuff, oh Lord, it's itchy under here. Oh, my demon flesh. Okay, so now let's move on to the bizarre banning before we get on to Commander Master. So with the bizarre banning, what's going on is Wizards of the Coast has made a bizarre banned and restricted announcement where there are literally no bans. We get 2 unbans. You probably already heard about that part where they've unbanned Preordain and they've unbanned Mind's Desire. They're both blue cards. Honestly, they are kind of interesting choices 4 cards to unban, and there has been massive market movement where if you go and look at what's going on TCG Player, like 95% of the copies of Preordain on TCG Player went within the first 48 hours. Like, thousands of these cards have flowed out the door. And actually, I guess since I'm talking about TCG Player, I don't mention it much, but I do have a TCG Player link down in the description, and if you're buying cards online and you use that, it doesn't cost you anymore, but Daddy gets his little devil taste. I get to walk up and go, give the devil his due, right? So there is that. Remember that if you're going on TCG Player. Now, this is a weird situation because if you actually go and read the ban and unban announcement, it's just dancing around Lord of the Rings. Let's be very, very clear. They briefly touch on actually talking about Preordain and Mind's Desire, but most of the article is actually talking about Orcish Bowmasters and the One Ring and how they're not going to touch them. And the language that they use is hilarious where they're basically like, we know it's like 43% of all the decks have this kind of stuff in it, and we know it's like 50% of the decks that are actually making it up to the higher ranks have this kind of stuff in it, but we really don't feel like there's any problem at all, guys. We're keeping our eyes on it. And like, my favorite is the One Ring, where their argument for not banning the One Ring is that there's more decks it can go into. This is the purest insanity. If you think back to the Oko ban, which was one of the most crazy bans in recent time, Oko represented 75% of the field. He was in so many decks. And go back to old bannings where they go, we're banning Skull Clamp. Why? Because everybody's running Skull Clamp. It's super powerful. It's super easy to put it in your deck because it's colorless, and everybody's running it. That's literally reasons they used to ban cards. It's too ubiquitous, and it literally disrupts the environment. And now, through their own twisted logic, I don't even know if they realize that they've said this, but when you go and read the language in the ban announcement, it literally is saying, like, we're not banning the One Ring because there's more decks it can go into. That means it would cause a bigger problem. Like, if you're just, no, man, we know a ton of people are using it, but here's the thing, way more decks can use it too. And it's like, you realize you're saying the opposite of what you should be saying, right? And like, this really looks bad when you've gone, Lord of the Rings is evergreen, son, so we're going to have Lord of the Rings printed for the next year. This is the most blatant, like the absolute most blatant version of, we're not going to ban valuable cards in a set that we're printing I have ever seen. We all know that Wizards of the Coast totally leaves sets and goes, oh, the massacre. No, that's fine. We don't need to mess with that. Oh, it's almost, oh yeah, we just realized it's a terrible card. Did we sell the boxes? Oh, it's so strong. It's so bad. We're sorry, guys. We're going to get it out of the environment for a balanced environment. But then when it comes to the stuff still being on the shelf, it's like, we still got boxes? Oh no, everything's balanced. In fact, more people can use the ring, right? So it blows my mind. It genuinely blows my mind to see in an announcement we're leaving it because it can go into more decks and become a bigger problem. It's kind of amazing. Let's be real. Now, let's move on to the most hellish aspect of the video. Commander Masters is an absolute dumpster fire. And lo and behold, there was some really handsome dude. What was his name? What was it? Oh yeah, the Magic Historian. That guy put out a video saying Commander Masters is a scam. And people came along and are like, you don't know what's going to be in it. You don't even need to know what's going to be in it. The price tag is enough, right? And then they actually started to drop more spoilers. And you look at the set and you go, oh, this is bad. This is bad. And you go further along and you're like, oh, there's literally no justification for this price tag. And lo and behold now, stores are getting buried. Honestly, I'm actually considering Commander Masters to be a bigger disaster than Magic 30. Because here's the thing about Magic 30. That sounds like a bold proclamation. You're like, no. Magic 30 is the worst product. But here's the thing about Magic 30. The damage was limited to where it should be. Just Wizards. Remember that they tried to sell this thing directly to you. Magic 30, you buy straight from us for $1,000, and we'll give one to each game store. Well, Wizards had to hand the stuff out to the game stores. They got to sell those and get a little bit of money. Wizards got like no money for Magic 30. So overall, all it did was go smarten up to Wizards, right? But Commander Masters is an absolute nightmare for everybody involved. Game stores are being crushed under the weight of this product. And some people will go, oh, boo-hoo, the game stores, they should just know to order better. Understand that distributors make you order way, way in advance just based off a name. And as a game store, are you really going to miss out on a master set? This is going to be the thing that everybody's buying. So I better get a decent amount of it. Now, some stores went ham. They spent like $100,000 or more buying it. Now, obviously, like that's an insane amount of money, but you got to have the product flow through. When it comes to product flow through, you've got Commander Masters collector boosters are the only thing that sells at all. It goes, Commander Master collector boosters did kind of okay, but it's still abysmal. Then you've got set boosters, which are anemic. Like, it's like barely anybody's touching it. And then you have draft boosters where if you didn't play in a draft, you didn't touch it. Game stores are talking about having pallets and pallets of this stuff and just trying to sell it through, losing $40, $50, $60 a box, man. Like, this is really, really bad. Crushing your LGSs under this is a terrible move. And you know what's even crazier than this, guys? Is the insane market crash that's going on with singles and stuff too. This blows my mind because way less product is being opened overall, but the tanking is happening at light speed. So we're not actually opening crazy amounts of this and increasing the supply, and yet the market value on these cards is just plummeting. And it's because Wizards has been mining the reprints so much that the reprints that they're making now don't matter. Grand Abolisher is nothing, right? The only reason that he seemed like he mattered is because he wasn't easy to get before. It wasn't something they printed 15 times like they do with Teysa. Wizards is running out of these targets to actually bring value into the set to make it worth for the stores to go, yo, buy these, they're lottery tickets to get cool stuff. But instead you go, well, actually, like, you're pretty much guaranteed to lose. If you want a Jeweled Lotus, maybe you can try your luck. Anything else, just forget it. Everything is getting hammered down so hard and people have just stepped right back. So this is going to run LGSs. Some of them might even go out of business from this. But on top of it, this is going to have a knock-on effect. Stores are going to go, I'm only going to buy a couple boxes from you from now on, and I'll just wait and see what happens. When literally Amazon dumps are cheaper than going to distributors for smaller stores. If you're a big enough store and you've got big enough muscles that you can do gigantic orders and the distributors actually pay attention to you, you matter, then maybe you're going to be okay. But if you're a smaller store, you have to pay higher prices, you have to pre-order in advance. Like, the distributors are all about getting your spend up. So you have these LGSs just being crushed under the weight of you don't know what you're getting at all, and you have to trust Wizards of the Coast. Imagine that, guys. Seriously, stop for a moment and think about if you had to trust Wizards of the Coast for your livelihood. Think about whatever job you have and trust that Wizards of the Coast was going to be good, not greedy, do a good job, or you're not going to get to eat. You're going to lose your job. Your family's going to be hosed. Like, that's the position a bunch of people are in. And you can go, well, you shouldn't have let yourself get in that position. Wizards of the Coast did things a completely different way for the first 25 years. These stores that are hanging on, they're hoping for better times. It's not their fault. Like, to a degree, obviously, you're responsible for all the choices that you make as a store owner, but you're given limited information, and Wizards has never hose-bagged this hard. The value ratio to the cost ratio is absolutely mind-blowing. Wizards of the Coast is going, yo, how hard can we milk Commander players? And so they're going, well, we can experiment because we don't take the hit. The LGSs take the hit. I've watched this kind of stuff happen in the past with Iconic Masters and Masters 25, and I thought that was bad, but this is genuinely the worst thing that has happened to Magic the Gathering. The set boosters and draft boosters are dead product. Even at these lower rates, people aren't taking it. Amazon's going 13%, 15%, 20% off. Please take this trash from us. And game stores are drowning in it. It is a terrible time for Magic the Gathering in a lot of ways. There is some hope coming, but Wizards has to ease back on the greed, and they have to find a better system that doesn't leave LGSs completely in the dark and hosed over, because it's absolutely unfair to treat your partners that way when they legit make barely any margins in the first place. It really does feel like Wizards has switched into an adversarial role where they're just kind of like, we're going to take the money, we don't care what happens to you. You're our valued partner. We'll send you a card at Christmas going, thanks for staying in business, but ultimately, we don't care if the choices we make destroy your business. And I hate to see it because I love LGSs. I'm on the side of LGSs. I'm on the side of players. The game should be accessible and affordable. There is literally no excuse for $600 boxes of reprints, for $500 boxes of reprints, for $400 boxes of reprints, for $300 boxes of reprints. $200, not $1 more, and even that is being greedy. You didn't have to do the design on all the cards. You barely had to get new artwork. These are the cheapest sets to make, and you're robbing us blind. Reprint robbery, right? So, thanks for coming by. That wraps up all of my demonic ramblings. I will be streaming over on my other YouTube channel, Hatcher, tonight. You're welcome to come on by and say hello and see what my face looks like after I take this mask off, because it's a nightmare under here. Anyways, big shout out to my patrons. You guys rule and will live forever because you made a deal with the devil. All right, get on out of here, you scamps. I'll see you in tonight's live stream.